But still, Mikola is getting ready to get out for his qualifying run.
There we go, forgot to turn the mic on. Hello everyone and good evening and welcome to round 1 of our 2019 Kart 1988 Championship. Coming to you tonight from Pheonix, in Pheonix International Raceway in Arizona, and as you could hear during the musical introductions as it were, we have a new voice in the broadcast booth. Well, technically two, in the form of Timo Vermeersch and, as I just try to sort things out here, and Dave Miller. Hello guys.
Hello,
Good evening.
Jonatan.
Good evening, Jonathan and everyone.
And yeah, as I mentioned, we are in Pheonix for this race. If I can find the track map, there we go. Which is a tri-oval, sort of dog-leg tri-oval, so to speak. Which at 1.0 miles, and we'll be going for 200 laps here tonight. And most likely it'll be a grueling race for all of our participants, wouldn't you think?
I did some laps offline on the track, and it indeed, as Jason pointed out, I think in one of the earlier broadcasts, it's a bit like flying a jet fighter through your bedroom. Driving these Indy cars on this short 1 mile oval, which on top of that has only very low banking. So it's really a tricky track, these cars.
But I agree there, it's going to be a difficult one. They're going to have to watch out for the traffic, the reliability of these cars. They are not as strong as a modern one, and just keeping the tyres alive for the full 200 laps.
And of course, that's another thing that Jason White mentioned to us earlier, off screen, so to speak, where he said that he was happy he'd done a race run because he found that if he pushed the tires way too hard, I think he said 110 degrees or above, it would be like Bambi on ice, more or less. As soon as you go into the next corner after the tires lets go, they let go completely and you go up into the wall.
Yep,
An absolute knife edge, this track and this car combination. It's going to be an interesting one to watch.
I think the second interesting one is they are racing, lapping around here on your own is one thing. But once you're gonna go into traffic, and you will hit traffic quite soon, being a leader on a short track like this, that's gonna be very interesting to see how they handle having to pick different lines through the turns almost every lap around. That will be the real challenge of oval racing here.
It certainly will, and we are also joined by one of our racers for tonight's race, Jason White. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you gentlemen doing?
Fine, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Pretty good. I mean, there's a race soon to happen, so all is good.
Yeah, well, you guys have the easy job. Just watching the actual event and telling us what happens. The 25 of us have to go out and try to survive for 200 laps. It's definitely not going to be easy.
So, well, partly it's easy, but at the same time it can be tricky at times to try and work out what to say about certain situation. Of course, you're in the Lola T88 for this race with the Yud engine, I believe. And
Yes.
what I can see from the older graphics I have saved, thankfully, it's good on road courses and short ovals. And are you finding that to be the case here?
Yeah, the Judd is producing actually more power than I thought it would coming off the corners. I think part of that is down to the excellent weight distribution it has. The car, I mean, if you can get the power down earlier than other people because your car's balanced well, then you're going to get down the straight faster. So what's going to determine how I do in the race, I think, is going to be, I think the Judd is reliable enough that I don't have to worry about engine problems, but I think tires definitely. You have to be very careful not to heat them, and if I can use the Judd's fuel economy to my advantage. It'll be hard to if we're having yellows every 5 laps, though. Kind of negates any fuel economy advantage one might have.
Well, considering you have a better balanced car, I assume you'll at least keep the tires under the car a bit better than others might do. And I assume the Yod has a bit of a smoother power transition compared to, for example, the Ilmor Chevy.
It does. It does. The power transition is much smoother, and on an oval like this, where you're on a ragged edge, that's very helpful. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Have to see how things pan out. I'm definitely going to be taking it slow early on. I'll have my myself in a room apart from the main channel. So if you guys want to drag me into the booth and talk to me during yellows, you're more than welcome.
Thank you very much for that offer. We'll see how many yellows we have and if there's an opportunity to talk to you. But either way,
Right.
I noticed you qualified 14th by the looks of things, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, it's really competitive. A lot of people during the week manage to set up that works really well for 2 laps. The question, though, is do they have a setup that will do well on full tanks and for an entire race? I found that I was able to run 5th or 6th fastest in race trim. So I'm feeling good about that in a race situation, and I'm also glad that this mod gives me the opportunity to adjust the sway bar on the fly, like they did have in these cars in the 80s. Because after some of the fuel burns away, you find that the car may start to push or not feel quite right, and you have the ability to make a small adjustment in the cockpit to make it a little bit easier. But people who haven't set up their car to do well in traffic are in for a real surprise, not of the good variety. I don't think, because you're going to just push up into the wall underneath all that dirty air thrown up by whoever's in front of you, and we should be lapping cars within 10 laps of the race, so it's going to be really, really difficult traffic for everybody.
Jason, how do you think that the yellow cooling off the tires may affect the car? Will that have an impact?
Well, it'll be helpful, ironically enough, early on. It'll keep people from getting into the danger zone with the right rear. If you get it up to, or the right front for that matter, if you get them up to the 120 degree range for any substantial length of time, the tires will just up and fail on you. It's amazing how quickly they just go away. They just like go, nope, that's it, we're done. And next thing you know, the back end is stepping out really severely. Yeah. So my fear is that because of the early yellows, no one will have had a chance to experience that, and then we're going to have another slew of yellows later on when the field is depleted from crashes, and then we're going to have a bunch of spins from people not realizing that you can't overheat the tires. So I don't know. It could be a demo derby. Who knows? It's a race that over the years, and all it takes is a YouTube search to see all the crashes. This is a tough oval.
Yeah, and I also read once that in real life, this track is located in the desert, and you often had some wind, and the wind was blowing sand onto the track, with as a result that the grip level could change from one lap to another.
Yes.
And of course,
Absolutely.
with it being in the desert, the temperature could also get quite high. As I know you mentioned earlier, Jason, with, I believe you said 110 or 120 Fahrenheit temperatures.
And those who've run the Trenton race in the USAC areas will see similarities here, because you cannot set up the car to be handling beautifully the whole way around. You need it to be free enough to track through turn 1 well, and then when you get to turn 3 and 4, that's far more wide open, and the back end is on a knife edge. So it is a compromised setup to make the car handle well around here, and that's what leads to a lot of the skittishness that you see. All right, I'm going to settle into the Hanway United Oil Life Cycle Lola Judd. And I will see all of you later.
Have a good race.
Yep.
Good luck.
Yeah, best of luck, mate. So that's Jason White getting prepared for the race as we're just quickly on board with Adam Hackman here in warm-up before the race. Just wanted you to have a quick look at how the track looks in terms of layout on board with the car as well. And yeah, let's have a quick jump over to, because as we mentioned a little bit here, we have a few different combinations. That's quite correctly. My apologies as I'm trying to get it all sorted out. As we've sort of mentioned earlier, we have a few different engine and chassis combinations, with one of the engines being the Ilmor Chevrolet, which produces about 720 horsepower at 11,000 RPM, which is, I believe that's race power, and it has good mid-range power, but a bit forceful in its delivery, with quite a big turbocharger on the engine, I believe. But it's also slightly lighter than the Cosworth, meaning that it ought to have a bit better handling, especially around these kind of short ovals.
Was in any case engine to beat in the real life series, where it won I think 14 out of 15 races.
I believe you are correct in that. And I believe the one race that it didn't win was a win for the Cosworth DFX, which is a turbocharged version of the DFV that was used in Formula 1 for many years, and it too produces about 720 horsepower, but at 11,800 RPM, which is slightly higher. And it of course powers most of the field. I believe the Ilmor Chevy powers 6, possibly 7 cars in the field, compared to the Cosworth, which powers approximately 75% of the field, maybe even 80% of the field.
I think there were 5 Chevy engines, 2 Judds, 1 Porsche, and all the rest was Cosworth. And then of course Jacob Fredriksson is driving the 86 core for Dale Coyne Racing. He also has a Chevrolet engine, but that's a Chevy stock, so it's a lot down on power compared to all the other engines.
Has a very distinctive V8 rumble compared to the other cars.
Indeed.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it would win the prize hands down for most beautiful sound in the field, but I think that's basically its main advantage.
Indeed. Well, that and fuel advantage, I believe.
Lavage has a roll on the back straight.
Oh dear, that's not good ahead of the race. What were you going to say, Dave?
No, I was just going to mention about the fuel saving in the Chevrolet stock as well. It's potentially got 120 laps in the tank in that car. Be one to watch, I think.
Oh, for sure, in that case. Let's see, I believe that's the one. Yep, it is. There is the Chevrolet stock block in the graphics as well, which is of course normally aspirated, a whole 6.5 liters, and as was mentioned, only one in the field in the form of Dale Coyne car, I believe tonight driven by Jacob Fredriksson, who won the Kart 88 series last time the series was run. So that'll be interesting to watch how he gets on with that car.
He's much less committed to this series than the one he was in Air Factor. Jacob is mainly taking one-off drives this season. So it will indeed be very interesting to see how he's handling, I would say, lesser material.
Indeed. And just to quickly go through the chassis and hopefully points structure before the race starts. We have the Lola T87 as well, which is the year-old version of the car that Jason White is driving, which is a very solid car for super speedways, but somewhat lacking in the road course department. I believe mainly due to a lack of downforce. We also have March chassis, the older ones being 87 and 86Cs, which has high downforce from the underbody, but that makes the car very unstable on bumpier tracks. I know for certain that Pocono would be a very troublesome circuit for these chassis, and of course the wings are common pack for both. We also have the March 88, which is the chassis that Adam Hackman has in his car, the driver we were riding on board with, which that car also has a very sensitive underbody. I suppose that's the downside of the Marches altogether, where they will struggle on bumpy tracks. Also difficult to set up, and actually ditched by several teams for the Lola chassis at around a mid-season point in the real life series, which will also happen here at HSO. And we also have one. Sorry, go ahead.
Adam Hackman, for instance, and Ray Riddell will indeed change from March chassis to Lolas somewhere mid-season.
Okay. And we also have one more chassis in Formula, the Penske PC17. The chassis that brought the championship to... And I've completely gone blank. Sorry, what did you say?
Denny Sullivan.
Indeed,
Championship
thank
went
you.
to Denny Sullivan.
Indeed, thank you very much. And the Penske was built in Poole, England, and was designed by the good old Nigel Bennett, who has been involved in racing for many years. And I mainly know him from the BTCC, but I know for sure he's worked on both prototypes, F1 and kart cars in the past. And the Penske PC17 was only used by Team Penske, 2 cars, at most races apart from the 500 milers, where we'll see Alan Senior drive the third Penske. In terms of real life, who gets it here, I'm not entirely sure. And just a quick look at the points system, where the top 12 cars picks up points at a scale from 20 points down to 1. And there's also 1 point for pole position and 1 point for most led laps. And to note in that regard, I noticed that the one taking the pole position point is Alberto Ibanez.
So he's now virtually leading the championship because he's the only one with 1 point.
Indeed. Let's see, so we have Alberto Ibanez on pole position. Austin Johnson picks up second, which is a great drive from him in that car, I would say. I believe that's the March 87.
Yes.
Third is Richard Coxon in the first of the Yud-powered cars, a Lola T88 as well, I believe.
Indeed, with a jet engine.
Indeed, yep. Just checking so that the safety car doesn't head in. It heads in, okay. So the rest of the field, let's do a quick run like this, just so you can see cars you want to see. Sorry for all this trouble, and here we go into turn 1. Looks like more or less everyone is surviving for now. And they are, but Austin Johnson takes up the lead from Alberto Ibanez early on in this race. So after 1 lap, Austin Johnson is in the lead. Ooh, and there's a big gaggle of cars back there, 3 of them, and there's another 3 cars running together.
Yeah, Willix, Junt and Canola are already running side by side in some turns. they're already forced to try alternative lines to the turns.
Yep. Oh, and really close between Canola and Junt. And Junt has a bit of a run on Wilkes, but can't make can't use it there. Of course, Richard Wilkes is one of the people that worked on this mod, put it where it is, which is a great effort. As here comes Junt up the inside. Wilkes trying to hold on.
Also got Jake's side by side coming into the dog lane. Can't see who's alongside at the moment.
Oh, there's contact back here.
Yeah,
The yellow
yellow
flag.
flag.
Yellow
the yellow
flag's
flag.
out.
Pitch apparently, Jason Pitch is out of the race.
Oh no. Owen Gardner with a lot of damage to his car. Looks like his car is crabbing. Let's see if we can possibly find out what happened. Let's see if Pitch.
I'm trying to rewind it.
There's wreckage in turn 1. Looks like that's where it's happened.
Yeah, let's see, he had a bit of contact early on. Let's see, I believe we're quite far back. Let's see, he had a bit of contact the lap before.
Ooh, and Reese Gardner is still driving, but he's trying to make it back to the pits without rear ring. I think his entire front suspension is bent.
Aha, so Fitch lost it in turn 4, and unfortunately Reese had nowhere to go with cars all around him and made contact with Jason Fitch as well. So Gardner in the pits repairing as the field goes by. So Gardner unfortunately will drop at least a lap here, and unfortunately
he
Reese
retired
is
now.
out of the race.
He also retired. He understood that it would probably be a very difficult dog to drive that car with the damage he had.
Maybe, but it's still very unfortunate that he has retired.
But so what we feared, or what we kind of predicted for the race is happening. We're 5 laps into the race and we have the first yellow.
Indeed, so let's have a quick look through the field with Johnson in the lead still. Romy Banyeth in 2nd, Coxon in 3rd, Grant Riddell in 4th in the SDP sponsored car, David Yates 5th, Junt now 6th, having passed Wilkes just before the yellow came out. Wilkes in 7th with Canola 8th, Peter Lavach 9th. Rounding out the top 10 at the moment is Juha Bors. 11th is John Team with 12th for Adam Hackman. Looks like he gained quite a few positions at the opening bit of this race. 13th for Pascal Mikla, 14th for Martin Lassina, 15th for David Saber, and 16th for Jason White. 17th for Ray Riddell, and 18th for Yves Placet in the AJ Foyt number 14 car. Raoul Jereb lines up 19th for now in the Domino's pizza car. Jason White lies 20th in Randy Lewis's
racing car.
Randy Lewis's drive in real life. I know Jason White was a bit worried about being in Lewis's car, worrying about being cursed with taking out the leaders. Hopefully he'll have no issues in that regard. Grand Rio 21st with Jacob Ferguson 22nd in the Dale Coyne stock block powered machine. Mick Chapman 23rd, and rounding out the field at the moment is Rob Swindells, who quickly jumped into the pits whereas the yellow came out.
And Jason Fitch has meanwhile set a small comment on his crash, saying,
Hey,
I lost
wake
it in 4, lost the rear tire, the server would not let me escape out. Rob Swindle, I think, hit me as a result. So I'm not sure whether Rob Swindle is Reese Gardner, or whether indeed Swindle also was involved in the accident and jumped in the pits for some repairs, with as a result that he's running last now.
User joined your channel.
As we're now joined by Reese Gardner. That's very unfortunate for you. Could you give us your perspective on what happened there, first and foremost?
just really unfortunate. I'd been putting in the laps and the hard yards. I'd put in the practice, and obviously I didn't complete the qualifying session. I was starting almost dead last, so I thought I'll just put my head down and make my way up. But unfortunately, I can't remember if it was 5 or 6 laps in. I think it might have been Fitch going slow on the front stretch, and I didn't see him in time. There were cars in front of me. They veered out of the way. I tried to get out of the way as well, but I think my right rear clipped him, and I just went straight into the wall.
That's really unfortunate. It's one of those racing situations, I suppose, in terms of.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was never too optimistic about my chances in this one. I've never been that fantastic of a setup artist, I suppose you could say, for ovals. So I'm definitely looking forward more to the road course rounds of this series. But yeah, I would have liked to have at least finished. That would have been nice.
I think it will be easier on the super speed race where there will be some more space between the cars.
Yeah, possibly. We'll see.
And
we'll
a lot.
see. I'm in it for the long haul here.
Indeed, and hopefully you'll have better luck in the future rounds. And it's good to see you around here. And hopefully you'll have a lot of enjoyment in this year in the series you're partaking in.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely enjoyed myself in the Procast series, and I've been enjoying myself driving these cars as well. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the season.
That's great to hear.
Meanwhile, they're back racing. Lavach has already passed Richard Willix for 7th, and Willix is now on the first pair from both Canola and Juha Boss.
And also further up in second, Ibanez and Coxon are going at it, going into turn 1.
So Coxon doing a great job with that Yard-powered car. Really making that.
Ooh. Yeah. Coxon is very hot on Alberto's tail, and I have the impression that the both of them running together are gaining on Johnson.
Definitely looks like it. With Ibanez a bit
much on the braking.
Very quick out of the corners. You can see he gets a run onto the back and the front straight. Just can't quite get inside.
Well, I've noticed riding on board with him. Oh, now he has a good run, no? That Chevy power in that Penske is definitely pulling that along very nicely, as you mentioned. Oh, but now Ibanez made a mistake. This could be the opportunity for Coxon if he can just. He really no. Okay. He's definitely doing a good job. This could now be the opportunity. No, okay, Alberto covers him off once again, but Alberto's definitely under pressure here. All this is allowing Johnson to pull away again by the looks of things. Of course, Alberto may have brushed the wall a little bit as well, right there. Oh, wow!
Just cross the yellow line at the bottom of the track. You want to avoid doing that. That will send you into the wall before you know it.
Oh, for sure. I believe that was the dirty air catching him out.
Oh, now he really has to run over the front straight.
Oh, here he comes up the inside.
He's gonna go through now. He's through.
Yep, and Alberto not putting up too much of a fight through the corner and lets him go. Let's see if they can work together now and catch Johnson up ahead.
Alberto's going to want to watch out because David Jakes is closing in on him now.
Together with Grant Riddell, so basically 20 laps into the race, and up front we see Johnson, Oxon, then Alberto, and then behind him Jakes and Riddell coming back, so you see always the same names coming back, whatever track.
Coxon's got a big run on Johnson now. He's right on his gearbox coming down the front straight. To the inside in turn 1, he's got him.
Yep.
Wow. He has some he's really making that Yad Lola fly.
Coxon is Richard is a man on the move for the moment.
Indeed, and to be fair, that yacht car ain't supposed to be this quick. Oh, as Alberto, I believe, brushed the wall in the back, in third position back there. Coming off turn 4.
That Penske's starting to look a little bit slippery.
Maybe he worked the tyres a bit too hard. Just like Jason mentioned earlier, that working the tyres a bit too hard can kill them and put you in a lot of trouble. Was I wonder, is there... Oh, he's almost... And they've almost caught traffic here.
Coxon is already up to coming to left Chapman and Swindles. That's going to be interesting because besides of that, the field seems relatively spread out for them.
Oh, and there's a spinner in turn 1.
Oh,
Yeah,
hopefully...
we got a yellow out.
I think that was Leave per se going across the infield.
Oh yeah, it is, and AJ Foyt car unfortunately drops the lap with that, and he has damage.
It was E plus.
Okay, I need to shorten down the replay for next round. I see. Okay, he lost it earlier than that. He went up out of the groove in the last turn, lost the rear and hit the wall. That's where all his damage came, and he tried to keep it under control going down into the pit road just to stay off the racing surface, but span down there. But that's of course, as you fellas has mentioned, another yellow here. But I gotta say, I'm really impressed by Richard. He definitely is the quickest at the moment, as he looks to be heading into the pits.
He's heading back out now, but the car still looks not very straight at all.
Eve's first spun backwards coming out of turn 4 and then he hit the wall. He tried to continue, but then he lost it completely entering turn 1.
Now, meanwhile, we've got some pit callers here on the front straight. White is in, Swindles is in, Chapman is in.
And Canola on his way out in 20th. Swindell's in again, so he definitely wants to fill up whenever he can. And it looks like Eves is trying to stay on whatever lap he can stay on, so to speak. Unless that's a drive-through for speeding, possibly.
Looked like a driver. I don't think he stopped in his box there.
But we're an eighth of the way into this race now. Lap 25 just completed.
Mercedes in the pits again. This time he stops, goes up on the jacks, and it goes into the garage, across the wall.
Oh, that's unfortunate. I'm sorry for him. Eves is always a quick driver, but he often has really bad luck. I know in F171 last year he blew something like 6 engines across the season.
Yeah, I think he blew an engine every 2 races, about. He managed to win the Can-Am championship though.
Oh, indeed.
Another fact about this race is that I think this is the race where the March Porsche combination raced for the very first time. Porsche had already entered 2 races at the end of the 87 season, but then they made a full factory effort where both the engine and the chassis were prepared or produced by Porsche. And for 88 they switched to a March chassis, so this I think is the first race where that combination raced. Never be very successful in Indy cars. They get one win in 1989 at Mid Ohio. But besides that victory, I think they only collected some Pro Bowl finishes. But they always fail to put their stamp on IndyCar racing.
Always dogged by poor reliability, I believe, that car.
Often, yeah, indeed.
And
But if you look at the spell of the way they basically almost ruled Group C racing in the previous years, and Formula 1 with the engine they provided to McLaren, it's always a mystery to see how they never got their act together for kart racing.
Well, from what I could read up on that, was more a question of management not doing it, not flowing the way they would have wanted, because one of the designers, I believe it was, died in a light airplane crash towards the end of 87, I believe, and others left at the end of 88, and all kinds of troubles.
They initially hired, I think, Al Halbert, who is a kind of a kart legend, to run the team, and he indeed lost his life in a small airplane accident. And after that it went from bad to worse for Porsche. Now they already had a look at IndyCar racing in late 1979. Winter in 1980, they had figured out that, or they had managed to convince USAC to give them a ruling that the engine, or an engine they took out of the back of a 935, which is in a sense a racing 911. They convinced USAC to rule that the engine was a 911 engine and thus a stock engine. So USAC considered it a race engine or a stock engine rather than race engine, which allowed them to pull the boost up to 55 inches. And Danny Onger ran with that car at Ontario, putting around speeds which I'd never seen before in kart. The other teams got wind of it and then convinced USAC to revoke the initial ruling, declaring the engine to be... Are we going back to racing here?
Yep, looks like it, so we'll have to continue that
Johnson
point later on.
Johnson immediately the jump on Coxon.
But Coxon trying around outside, surely that won't work.
Oh, I think they may have banged wheels there.
More difficult to tell, but Coxon
Richard
trying around
touched the wall 2-3 times.
Oh dear. Hopefully no major damage for him, but definitely a bit of danger there. But oh, he goes up the inside immediately. Wow.
And I think Grant and David Jackson are really have an eye out for Alberto's third spot.
Definitely looks like it. And on board with David Junt hanging with these guys, as Coxon has the fastest race lap so far at the 22.2. Oh, and Riddle and Yates almost makes contact there. Oh, surely Grant won.
Checking right up there, and that's cost them a lot of momentum.
And Coxon is really gathering himself a nice lead over all the rest.
Indeed, he sets another fastest lap at the 22.0.
Of course, with the yellow they just had, he now all the back markers have got back up behind, so he has a completely clear open road before him, and he can just use the jet power to power away from the rest.
Yep. Looks like Johnson is holding the rest up.
Well, back in the pack, we've got quite a fight for 11th. John team is holding off Jason White in the Hemmelgarn car as they come into the dogleg. White's got the run to turn 3, but not quite enough.
And behind those two, Saber and Riddell Senior are fighting like a bunch of schools. And
I wouldn't have expected White to be in such a feisty mood this early, but because he's usually very careful. But definitely interesting to watch, as I believe you were going to say he was under attack from Saber, but he was able to hold on there.
I think John Team is basically slowing the 3 cars behind him a little bit. I think both White, Saber and Ravedell.
Ooh, as Jason White hits the wall, I believe.
Saber is now under his wing.
The problem for Jason is that he likes a very loose car. As you mentioned earlier, that could be one of the reasons why he's struggling a bit for rear tyres here, but...
There's Riddell getting around Saber.
Things up front have settled down to something more civilized now. Still Coxon way ahead now. Johnson has some breathing space, then it's Vermeersch, Riddell, Jakes, but they all seem... Riddell now moving on Alberto. Yes, Grant goes into third. Through the dogleg. Very clean move. And Alberto loses some momentum, leaving Grant through, and now immediately has David Jakes on his rear rim.
And David, of course, another driver that ought to do very well here. He's has set up engineer extraordinaire, as he proved in F191, where he actually switched down to a lesser car and still kept on winning. As Austin, I believe, notches the wall there. And Lavach too, I believe, touched the wall. And here comes... Oh, I believe Ray may have given Jason White back here a little bit of a nudge. I'm just trying to have a look. Jacob Ferguson gets passed by Thiago Canola. That's a very uneven fight. Let's jump on board with this stock block just for a moment and listen to that beautiful engine.
Further down, Jason White now makes it past John, and Ray Vidal immediately tries to follow suit, but team stays in front of Vidal. They're now running very close, and so Jason White has moved up to 11th. And Mikola has made it past Saber.
Sorry, I'm having the turbo sound dream at the moment. I love that they do that. And here he goes past. So that's Ray past Jon. Making use of that Ilmo Chevrolet and the extra boost that he put on there by the sound of things.
Coxon now just left Jason White. So Coxon is running into traffic now. But I think he almost has an entire straight between him and Austin Johnson, but
well, Grant Vidal now.
Yeah.
Where things are going to start getting very interesting for the leaders. They need to hold their position and still get through the traffic.
I think Johnson has used the best of his tires, because now Alberto is also passing.
Whoa!
Austin is losing rhythm here at quite a quick pace.
Johnson had one hallelujah moment to come through 4. How he held onto the car, I cannot fathom, but as you say, it's definitely...
Austin is probably one of the fastest drivers we have around here in the league.
Indeed, but even a fast driver needs to look after his tires, and by the looks of things he has failed to do this in this initial stint.
Well, he is a bit of an all-or-nothing driver. It's not like Jakes or Junt who... Jakes and Junt can run an entire race at almost the same pace, while as Johnson and Grant are more all-or-nothing drivers. They're, put it in a little bit, pardon my French, they more drive balls on the table all the time, almost. Still, for Austin to be running 4th in this race in a year-old car is quite astonishing.
Indeed, and I also notice, talking about drivers that are just nice to see running well, at the back of this train, just about able to hang on in the draft, is Richard Wilkes.
And Grant is now coming up to lap Adam Heckman and Mick Chapman, but those two are battling over 21st position now. He went through cleanly. So that's going to be an interesting one. Chapman and Heckman are battling for 21st position, and the leaders are coming by one now, so it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up for all the leaders.
Well, I'm not sure they'll want to do it one by one, but they may be forced to do it that way. So Berto now will be the first one to try and get by. See, the tries look...
Let's keep our fingers crossed, but for now we have been running 15 laps without cautions.
Oh, is Hackman and Chapman getting hit?
Yeah.
Straight.
Heckman tried to make room for Alberto, I think.
Well, he made room for Alberto and made a move for position at the same time. There goes all the leaders more or less. It's only Richard Wilkes who haven't quite made it by all of them yet, but it looks like he ought to do it here.
And it seems that while they're lapping, Austin has an easier time to keep on the tail of Alberto now, and has it easier to contain David or the two Davids behind him, Jakes and Junt, two DJs.
Yep, and it looks like the top 11 is fairly close, top 10 is fairly close together, and then there's a big gap behind.
Pascal Mikkela's into the pits. Or what for?
Well, he haven't pitted yet, I don't think, so this may be his first scheduled stop.
I'm looking at Pascal's replay right now, and it seems he had a spin in turn 4 and hit the wall.
Oh dear.
He still has his wing on, but I can't imagine that car has no damage with that spin, so he basically cartwheeled into the wall, back end first.
Ooh. Well, good thing that there's no yellow.
Well, he didn't hinder no one, he just went into the pits on his own and was well way on the infield, so... But I think that's gonna hit, well, he will be dead last, and I think by the time he's already 5 laps down on Coxon and Riddell and Ibanez now. 3 laps down on the second place Jason White, so he's gonna have a very tough race.
Yep. I'm just having a quick look through the field, and
Coxon is now on John Tim's tail to lap him, which means that within about the next 2-3 laps, the entire everyone outside of the top 10 will be a lap down.
Indeed, and Timo under a bit of pressure from Saber here. Saber trying to make use of that lapping.
Yep.
In a Mario Andretti car, but not quite able to make complete use of it. But it looks like he's on a slightly high boost there, but still couldn't quite make it down the inside. So the Swede and number 12 machine doing a very good job here, hanging on. But here comes Saber up the inside, still he holds on. That's some great exchanges here. Oh, and okay, that's a lap car. Sorry, I thought that was too wide for going through one.
John Team is in a March Cosworth, so his engine will be slightly down on power compared to Saber's heavy engine.
Indeed, and here they come.
There it goes up inside into 3. It goes through.
Nice pass there. He had to work for it for a few laps, but nice fair work from all of them. All of them. Both of them, I should say.
Top 5, 6 is now, and Johnson is meanwhile fallen back to 5th. Saber has gone by, but the top 10 is now really spread out. There's
pretty
no
much
in the top 10.
Well, it's Junt and Wilkes that are the closest from the looks of it, but as you say, very spread out. So
there's a good 2-3 cars in between Wilkes and Junt, so well, Richard will probably have a good tow from Junt if he wants. And David Yount in 6th place is now lapping Thiago Canola. That's a little bit of a surprise to see Thiago run that low, because he was very competitive in the 1971 series, in the Can-Am series. He also was one of the main entertainment people in the Pro Car race last week, where he came second behind Grant, but they battled it out between them for almost the entire race. So it's a little bit surprising to see Thiago run this far down. He has a Lola ET8 chassis, so he's a good chassis. Only a Cosworth engine, but still. Seems that short ovals are not his thing.
No, indeed, and it's a bit strange to drive around this kind of place as well, because you can't quite drive. You certainly can't drive it like a super speedway, but at the same time you can't drive it as a road course. So it's somewhere in the middle.
What makes it very special is that it's a short track, but at the same time the banking is very limited. There's very low banking, so the banking is not really working with you in the turn. So I'm four from an oval specialist. When I was driving the car around, I almost approached the turns like the first 2 turns you could almost approach like a road track. Then of course the last turn it's much long. It's a very long radius, so it's very long. That was very. I lost a lot of time in that turn.
Meanwhile, leader Richard Coxon's into the pit lane. The routine stop, 4 good years, fuel, and he's away. Comes back out in 11th place.
And Riddell is first now. And it seems that Coxon now is a lap down on Riddell.
That'll happen in
And
short.
Chapman's in the wall.
Oh no! Jason, hold on to it. Ah no!
And meanwhile, Pascal Mikola is still sitting in the pits. He's now 18 laps down, and we got a yellow.
Oh dear me. Poor Jason. He got caught out by.
Unfortunate for Richard as well.
Mikola is now rejoining the race, 18 laps down.
Jason White unfortunately got caught out by Richard Coxon coming onto the track after his pit stop. I'm not sure if he hit it.
Lassina is in the pits without a rear ring.
Oh dear, so he must have got involved in that.
And Martin just retired.
So let's see here if we can find out what happened. We have Richard Coxon on the inside.
Jason White is now running around without a left front wheel.
Jason tried to run around outside, but lost it on the outside and hit the inside barriers as he came down from the top of the track, having tried to run around outside of Richard with the...
And he knocked off his front wing and his front left wheel, so... I think that car will be very tricky to, he's still running around trying to...
and Alberto Banez has been given a penalty.
Yeah, a 10-second stop and go.
Oh dear, that's
Let's
not
hope
good.
we're not.
Cool. As we have the leaders into the pits. Very, very congested down there at the end of the pit lane.
And Jason is not, he's still driving around, he's not coming into the pits.
Well, that's because he's a lap down, so he's not allowed to come in yet.
Oh, yeah. I never understood those allowed or not allowed rules in USAC or in NASCAR, so...
Well, Americans being Americans, I suppose. Sorry to all our American viewers, but some of the racing rules the American sanctioning bodies came up with, it seems a bit strange, to say the least. Let's see if Alberto... I wonder, can Alberto even serve his penalty on the yellow? I don't think he can.
Of course, the driver who's lost out most
But
of all this.
he's now back in the lead.
Well, he's
Going
held
to be
on to the
Richard
lead.
Coxon. He
Well, now
pitted
it's,
just before the safety car
It's
came out.
rush hour in the pit
Yeah.
lane now. Huh? Everybody's coming in. Jason
So-
White is in now, John P is there, Thiago Canola. It's Black Friday in the pit lane.
Indeed, and Richard Coxon will lead the tail of cars away at the green flag in a few laps time here. As David was about to say, I believe is that Coxon is probably the one who lost out the most with this yellow.
Yep. And Alberto is now first, but on track he's not first. He's running behind the crack car, which is driven by Adam Heckman, who is somewhere is 18 or 21st.
He is. Let's see. He is 11th.
Coxon is only 9th, but he's the one running first behind the pace car. So once the pace car comes into the pit, he will have immediately a road ahead of him. So he should be able to make up for lost ground quite quickly. Or that should at least give him an advantage for some laps.
Indeed, and as we are on the yellow, let's have a look at our trivia question for tonight's race, so that you have something to ponder during the last 128, make that 27 laps by the time the trivia question has been asked. Well, anyway, the trivia question as such reads: who won the first kart-sanctioned IndyCar race at Pheonix on March 11th, 1979? Was it A. Gordon Johncock, B. Al Unser Sr., that would be, by the way, or C. Tom Snever? I can tell you that I got that wrong, but I know Dave got it right when I asked him earlier tonight.
Yes, but I had the unfair advantage of watching the actual race from 1988 this morning for research purposes.
I have my laptop sitting just next to me, so I could find out in 1 second. Well, not good at cheat.
That's good stuff. Good sporting side from you there, Timo.
Maybe while they're on the yellow, I can finish the story about Porsche 7980.
Of course.
Basically, the other team, Danny Onga, put down an absolute speed record with the intersection Porsche car, and they were looking like they were going to sweep Indianapolis clean, as Ontario was basically a copycat track from Indianapolis. So the other teams went to USAC and convinced USAC to revoke the initial ruling, now stating that the 935 engine was not a stock engine but a race engine, as it obviously was, and that limited the boost or the maximum boost setting from for Porsche from 55 to 47 or 48, which basically made the engine competitive. And Porsche was so disgusted that they just shelved the Indy project in '79. They went to develop 956, 962, with which they basically monopolized Group C from 80 to 87. I think of all the Group C races, 9 out of 10 or around 9 out of 10 were run by 956s or 960s. And they produced under the name, yeah, and we're back to racing.
Yep, green flag is out and Coxon leads the tail.
Coxon immediately away.
Yep, leads the tail of cars away, but the left cars behind him is in a whole heap of trouble as the leaders come by. And oh, there's contact between Johnson and Alberto Ibanez, and Johnson sneaks into the lead.
Yep.
Wow.
And Grant now goes past Alberto is pitting now.
Okay, that'll be for his penalty,
Yeah.
I assume.
Let's hope that this does not evolve in the same direction as we had with the Pro Car race and penalties last week.
I don't think it will. Let's see what... Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say it's probably hitting while the pits were closed or something like that. Can't be sure.
Could be, as Alberto unfortunately loses a lap with those 10 seconds of stop-go penalties. That's really unfortunate for him. He'll You have to hope for a yellow.
And Ray Riddell and Lavac are now battling for 6th, with Thiago Canola, who is running 12th, straight behind them, trying to unlap himself. Thiago's now moving on to Lavac to unlap himself through the dogleg and manages to unlap himself.
That's one of the difficulties around this kind of racetrack. Everyone will want position from each other. No one will probably want to let go, especially later on in this race.
And Thiago will now have to watch out, because he should normally get a blue flag, and if he doesn't move away fast enough from the caution which he unlapped himself, he might get a sanction.
Well, generally speaking, in that term, USAC was a bit more friendly than the European series, where if you held the car up or were ahead of them with a blue flag, you would immediately get a sanction if you didn't move out of the way more or less. They did 4 or 5 turns, but USAC usually had it that as long as you're quicker than the car, you unlap yourself from, even though you may be given blue flags, as long as you're quicker than them, you won't get a penalty. That's Lavac just...
Very much advisory over this side of the Atlantic.
Indeed. And let's see, Ibanez is 10th with Hackman right behind him now for position. Canola, as we saw earlier, is trying to unlap himself, doing what he can to get by Ray Riddell here. Looks like he may have a run. Oh, as he has a big moment trying to step out from underneath the wing of that Emerson Fittipaldi driven in real life car.
And it seems that Grant Riddell now has a hard time keeping up with Austin Johnson. Austin seems to be driving away from everybody. So I think probably the yellows have allowed him to cool his tires off, and he seems to be seems to have found a new pace.
He's even closing down Richard Coxon, who's trying to get away and stay on the lead lap now.
Indeed, and another driver who lost out a lot in the fracas of yellow flags, by the way, was Juha Boss.
Has Austin already stopped? Already pitted?
Alberto has pitted for the penalty, yes.
Coxon
And he had really, the pit strategy worked really well for him.
Well, I also believe if your estimate, Dave, of 120, 140 laps in the Chevy Stock Block Dale coin machine, in terms of amount of laps he can do on a tank, he is now good to go to the end. As also noticed, Richard Coxon is now being caught by Austin Johnson. Austin will surely want to put him a lap down. And I wonder if
still standing in the pits, getting his car repaired.
I can imagine his repair time will be humongous. Unfortunately.
He's still in front of Phil Nicola. Nicola still has one lap down on Jason White, but I think if he passes the next time, Nicola will now take over 21st from Jason White the next time he comes around. And it seems that the engine on Jason's car is running again. I think he will be leaving the pits soon now.
And the damages were similar in repair length, presumably.
But he has a front left wheel again, so they fixed that. So in 88 they were able to repair a wheel that you lost. In 1971, as I have experienced personally, that was impossible.
Indeed.
But the funny thing is, if you look at the standings table now, you see Johnson in the lead, then Grant Riddell, David Jakes, David Yount. That's 4 names, whatever the championship, whatever the cars, whatever the track. Those are 4 names you always see to the front. So those are really very all-round strong racers.
Meanwhile, further down in the pack, we've got a bit of a battle developing for third between the two DJs, David Jakes and David Yunt. Watching it as they come out of turn 4.
Yunt is having a look. But it's not really wholehearted.
Hanging on to them is Rob Swindles, a lap down in 9th, but he's holding on to the back of these two.
Yeah, and if the two DJs would decide to work together, Grant is not that much in front of them. If they could give each other a tow, they might easily catch Grant back.
And something to note on Rob, we haven't seen him in a year's time, well, 2 years' time more or less, but in 2017 when we ran this championship, Rob was in the lead in this race early on after pit stops and that kind of stuff, but he also was fighting for the lead at Long Beach, which would be the next round in this championship. So he has some speed, it's just that you need to get acclimatized once again to the racing.
And Johnson now is really building up here now. Already has close to 4 seconds advantage over Grant Riddle. And there's always about 2 to 3 left cars in between the both of them, so if Johnson no longer leads to pit, he's building a very strong foundation for a good race here.
Well, Johnson will have to pit again, but I know he pitted during the recent yellow.
Yeah. And both Jakes and Yunt are now on Grant Riddle's tail.
They hit the traffic.
Jakes has a look at Riddle as they try to lap Chapman.
Ooh! Ooh! Holy mother of... Oh, and a big moment again for Jakes. Holy moly! Dear me, this could end in tears, but at least for now they hold on.
But he took second.
Just about. Not much in that.
Through all the commotion, he is now in second. Yunt is taking it, well, true to his reputation, he's taking it a lot easier. He's not taking as much as risks, but he's falling back a bit now from the two hotheads.
Indeed,
As we discussed earlier, it's all going to be about the traffic at this point of the race.
Traffic entire life, I assume, as we saw with Johnson last stint. I wonder if that will happen again.
The wall in turn 3.
Oh no!
Yep, backed into the wall, still going, but the car looks quite damaged.
Oh no!
There's been conflict behind. So I think that will bring the yellows out again.
Yep, and that car is very heavily damaged. Unfortunately, that's a yellow out, as you mentioned. As Frickson makes sure to get out of the way of the safety car. But unfortunately, that's another car heavily in the wars, and that was a car that was looking good.
I think what Jacob was trying to leave room for Pascal Mikula, and then his rear spun into the wall. He crossed back over the track, and Gérard Rion could not avoid him and just slammed into him. So both those cars are damaged.
Yep, and unfortunately Jacob Fredriksson is now out of the race, retiring before even trying to repair the car, and I noticed Lasina's out as well. I didn't see him retire earlier.
He was out for a while already.
Okay.
Adam Heckman is in the pits now.
Good news for Richard Coxon, he's managed to get in front of the safety car, so he'll make up most of his lap and be able to join onto the back of the train.
I think he'll breathe a sigh of relief with that situation being
Richard is
sorted.
back into 8th position.
Wow, David Yakes, I suppose, only took fuel there. out in front of the rest of the field, so I believe he'll pretty much take the lead. He's second at the moment. Third, he'll be coming out because there's Ray Riddle and Richard Wilkes.
It's very strange now, the game is doing strange things again. Richard Wilkes is now reported as being in the lead. Then second is Ray Riddle.
I think Richard Wilkes stayed out. He didn't stop. That's why he's in the lead.
Jakes is coming in now, as is Junt, which moves Coxon up to fourth. This is going to be interesting as they restart. They're all this right. I see Jake's in the pit now, Coxon in the pit.
They are. Jake's up on the jacks. Goes Coxon.
Well, what may be interesting now that with Richard Wilkes and Ray Riddle not pitting, they're now running first and second, and Grant Riddle is running fifth, so we may actually see a father-son battle brewing here in a while.
It's definitely possible, but I must say I'm really happy to see Richard out in the lead. He deserves a good finish. I mean, put in a lot of work on this mod, as has Alberto, of course.
I think Richard had a very disappointing 1971 Formula 1 campaign. The Lotus was a very difficult car to drive. He had a good outing in Kia Lamy, but he then had a come together with me actually. He was trying to pass a car and let me at the same time, and he touched me, which damaged his car. And then the whole season, at the end he had some strong finishes, but most of the season was quite disappointing for him, I think.
And more callers into the pits: Ibanez, Canola, Chapman, and Whitehead all making a stop. Adrian's also in the pits. He's been there for some time.
But he had damage. He drove into Jacob Fredrickson's car and knocked off his front ring, so he will probably have quite some time. He will probably need quite some time for repairs. Now,
But when he
Fredrickson
needs to be
will
careful, his engine is smoking as well as Gerard, so he needs to shut that down.
Yeah, I hope he knows that. I hope he has mapped buttons to.
Oh no, there it
restart the
goes.
engine because
Well, there it goes, that's the engine cooked and burnt and all
Barbecue.
kinds of things.
Barbecue.
Well, at least they
It's
will
like in the
be
real
able to.
race.
Yeah, at least they will have the opportunity to have marshmallows, but I'm not sure the crew will be too happy with that. It's very unfortunate for them, but sometimes you simply have no luck at all.
Well, Richard Wilkes and Ray Riddle will now be in a very interesting position once they go green again, because they're running just behind the safety car, so they can pull off the both of them together. And third place man Junt will first have to deal with 3 or 4 back markers before trying to catch them back.
That may have been quite a good strategy call, because I don't think any of the other cars that stopped are going to be able to make it to the finish. They might come up just short on fuel. Unless we have a lot more yellow flag running.
I think there's actually one in between the safety car and Richard Wilkes.
Well, the two machines I expect to have
Any
any kind of hope to have only one stop would be the Yad car, right? I mean, the others surely has more fuel burn than 50 laps.
The safety car is peeling in, so we will go green. Yep, it's green flag again. And Relix immediately goes past Team and Jareb, who is lapping. Oh, he needs to go on the outside to clear Raoul.
Raoul,
He hangs on.
but Raoul being very sporting there, leaves him room.
But that immediately gives Richard quite a gap with Ray.
And here we have a 3-car battle actually, 4-car battle with Johnson. And as he goes up the inside of Lavach and gets that position. Now behind Yates and Coxon up ahead.
Junt is much better at this thing with left with back markers, and I think it won't be long before he will be on Ray Vidal's tailpipes.
Indeed, and there we can see that Jason White is still running up ahead of Coxon here. As you say, Junt will surely get there sooner or later.
Junt is now past John Tim, and he can start looking for a way past Ray Vidal. That's
Ray is
something about...
Go ahead.
We have said it often, and we'll probably keep saying it, but that's something with DJ, with David Junt. You're never seeing do blindingly fast laps.
Oh, we've got a yellow flag out.
Yep.
Let's see if we can possibly...
Jason White spun on the front straight away.
Oh dear. On a bit of damage to his rear wing as well. Oh, better stay stationary now, man. Oh!
Oh, that was very close.
Oh, dearie me. Well, at least we survived, but that looked very dangerous indeed. Let's see, who would that have been? That would have been David, I suppose. So I'm just trying to get the replay up. Here we go. See if it was David or if it was. That was a bit earlier. Let's see who that would have been. Because someone got very close to Jasonen. Oh, it was Saber actually. Dear me, that was awfully close. As you mentioned, we do unfortunately have another yellow, and at least it looks like it'll be a close fight towards the front of the field here for the rest of this race.
Battle for 5th is gonna be interesting once we go green again, because Richard is now in 5th, but he has David Jakes and Alton Johnson right behind him in 6th and 7th. And David Junt is running straight behind Ray Vidal, so as soon as they go green again, he will be able to challenge him for second.
Yep. And Jason White, Johan Bors. Notice someone else was into the pits.
That's David Saber in the pits, number 6.
Indeed
And
it is.
Willix is now straight behind the safety car, and there are no cars between Vidal, him and Junt, so the 3 front runners will be able to race for position immediately as we go green again. So that's going to be interesting.
Yep, and there's only one car between the next group with Grant Vidal, just one car behind as well, and another 2 cars, and then there's another 4 cars.
John T will be able to put his mirrors to good use.
Indeed he will. I sure wouldn't want to be in his race seat at the restart here, I don't think.
He will feel some pressure. 1988, by the way, was quite a big year for the Pheonix International Raceway track. They had been hosting NASCAR races since the late 70s, I think, but they never had the top tier series of NASCAR, which in those days was still called the Winston Cup. But 1988 was the first year when the Winston Cup also came into Pheonix, a little bit later than the kart race. And that first NASCAR Winston Cup race at Pheonix was won by Alan Kulwicki. And to celebrate the victory, Alan, after the race had finished, turned his car around and did a victory lap in the opposite direction of the track, which he continued doing during all his wins in NASCAR, and was known in NASCAR as the Polish victory lap. Kulwicki would go on to win the Winston Cup in '91, I think one of the last true privateers to win the Winston Cup. And unfortunately he lost his life shortly after in the beginning of 1992 in an airplane accident. And it's green again, and immediately Vidal with a jump. And Grant Vidal is already past Jonatan.
Oh, not quite. Wilkes gets them back. Here comes Junt up to second as well. And here comes Grant.
Behind.
Ray loses. Well, Ray being the father of Grant, I can sort of understand he lets him by. Junt scrapes the wall and goes after Wilkes. The team actually holding on for now. Not too slow, and Junt had a run but got held up. Here comes Grant.
Grant is trying to find a way past Junt.
Oh, and here he comes, he has a run, looks for the outside. Oh, don't make it 3 wide though. No, they don't. Okay, 2 wide into turn 1. Junt on the inside, holds on for now. Grant looking for the cutback. Can't quite get the power down by the looks of things. Wilkes doing what he can to hold on. I'm pretty sure it doesn't look like he quite has the pace at the moment.
I have the impression that David's car is slower in a straight line than both Richards and Grant's car.
Well, I believe
While David and Grant are on identical cars.
well, that could seem to be a question of different wing settings, I suppose.
Yeah.
Or different boost as well, of course.
And David may be saving fuel. He seems pretty stable to the turn, so he may actually be running some more ring than Grant is.
Yep, and it looks like he wanted to back Grant up because now he has found some extra speed and it's right behind Wilkes now going through 3 and 4. Looking for a run. Looks like he has it. Let's see, can he go up the inside? He is looking for it. Decided not to go for it. Oh, Richard hits takes the apron on the inside. Here comes David on a run. And Grant as well.
Grant now taking David slow.
Whoa, Richard really deep. Oh, yo, hold on to it, Grant, hold on it. Wow.
There he goes through.
Well, he goes through, but at least he was able to hold on now. He's got Richard on the inside here. Richard drops back. Grant looking for a run on his senior again, and here he goes, and Richard looking for the run as well as Ray gets slowed up and loses 3 positions in 3 and 4. And here comes Johnson as well.
And
looking up the inside and goes by.
Richard and David up front are very evenly matched.
Yep, and Richard making use of the draft now.
They're working together very smartly because the both of them are really pulling out a gap on all the rest of the field now. They already have close to 2 seconds on Grant.
Well, Grant is very lucky to still be in this race. He was so close to hitting the wall.
And Coxon is now, I think Ray has had an issue because behind Grant it's now Coxon and Jakes in 4th and 5th.
Yeah, Ray ran wide in 3 and 4, just like Jason couldn't get on the power and hold it. He lost it, of course. Ray couldn't get on the power either and lost a lot of time in 3 positions.
And we were just talking about how we were surprised that Thiago was running way down the field. Patrol, the pit stop is up to 10 now.
Yep, still a lap down, but I mean, holding on to being on the same lap as Alberto in the Penske ain't a bad showing at all. Looks like Grant and Richard Coxon, and I'd assume David Yates and Austin Johnson also more or less hanging on here. They're starting to catch up to Richard Wilkes, who's now in second, so Junt is taking the lead. Didn't notice that. Ooh, as Richard has a massive moment.
Junt is pulling away from Richard at an incredible pace.
Yep, and Grant makes a mistake coming up with 1. Looks like Richard will take third here. He does indeed.
He has 1.5 seconds on Richard and over 3 seconds on Coxon, Riddell, Jake. And if the trio Riddell, David Jakes and Richard Coxon, if they're gonna fight among the 3 of them, David Junt will just run away.
Indeed.
So those 3 would better use their heads and start working together. Jason White is meanwhile back on track, and I think he's now about 26 laps down on David Junt, but he soldiers on.
Yep, that's Jason's sort of trademark, I suppose. No matter how damaged the car is, if he can get it to the finish line, he will. He of course is looking forward to Indy, where he'll get the Buick engine. Talking about Jason, here he is. Oh, he has a bit of a moment. Oh, check up for Richard Coxon there.
The clever just the opportunity, he snatched it.
Yep. But all 3 of them survived to keep on going in this race.
But Junt now already has about 4 seconds on Riddell. It was like we were saying earlier, David Junt is someone who you will never see you rarely see him do incredible. No, he lost his rear ring.
Oh dearie me, hold on to it boy, hold on to it boy. Oh no, he's off. Oh, hold it high, hold it high, hold it high.
Down.
Good job, Grant. Considering that situation, he did a fantastic job. Wow.
These cars are nearly undrivable without rear ring around here.
Yep. Well, either he's had that happen in practice, so he knows what to do, or he's far better than anyone else I've seen driving without a rear wing. That was a great job there.
He's one of the best drivers around here.
When he almost loses it in the pits trying to get it slowed, but he's able to get it to the pits and the pit stall very nicely there and start repairs on the car. That'll take some time.
And the funny thing, or luckily for Jake or for Junt, he has not brought out the yellow flags.
Indeed, and now with Johnson and Cox.
Wilkes is closing him down.
Yep.
Gap's under a second now.
While Lars Coxon is over 5 seconds down now.
I wonder if David possibly pushed his tires too hard here. Compared to Richard, who was a bit more conservative in his initial laps on this run.
Or David is just, as he always does, pacing the race. He's very much Jellan Post of our league, I would say, in that he doesn't care whether he wins with 10 seconds advantage or with 1/10 of a second advantage. It's only the position that matters to him.
Well, he sort of proved that in it was Michigan last year, where he won the 500 miler there by, I believe it was 0.002 of a second or something, ahead of Jan Kowalski.
I'm pretty convinced that David is now just pacing his tires, and as of the point in time that he would feel that Richard is too close, I think he's capable of just increasing his rhythm again and driving away again. And that's of course very demoralizing for the guy behind you, because he closes in, then as he thinks I'm up there, he just increases his, then he's off into the distance.
Well, we'll know in a few moments' time what the situation is, for sure that is.
The gap's still coming down, it's half a second now.
They're lapping Jason.
Jason stays very wide and gives them a lot of room, which is nice to see. And Richard,
Grant was still in the pits.
yep, I know he was down to 18th a little while ago. I'm sure still in 18th, quite a few laps to drop still, but that's a very costly situation for him. Ooh, as David has a bit of a moment, trying to get on the power coming out of 4. So I definitely think David is struggling just a tiny bit with the car at the moment.
I think maybe right there, Jonathan, as they close in on the back markers again. Bobby Wilkes' opportunity.
Definitely could be, but Adam gets out of the way very sportingly there.
He's got quite a large train of cars in front of him, they all seem to be fighting for position.
Yep.
Coxon has now distanced himself from Jakes, so he should be able to start working on catching back Richard, the other Richard, Wilkes.
And it looks like Richard Wilkes is struggling just a tiny bit if the graphics are right.
He has, he's lost half second and been gapped a little bit there.
Yeah, I noticed he has engine temp lights on, and I'm not sure if that's the fuel light on the right there flashing a little bit. I noticed that riding on board with him, but on the TV cameras.
It's the his engine is overheating by time, I think.
Well, it may just be graphical glitch, but it looks like David has the same thing, so...
I think it's just the light switching as they turn.
Yep.
I think it's just reflection.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I got a bit excited there.
Well, these cars are very marginal on temperatures, they do get very hot, and he's slowing and pulling into the pits. Is Richard Wilkes, he's coming into the pits.
Okay, then that may have been fuel light still. Let's see, 149, he'll have a very hard time getting to the end here, but if he knows he can get...
So that now leaves... so I think David is now going to the line and he will be finishing or completing his 150th lap, which means that we have 75% of the race or 3/4 of the race covered.
Another amazing situation right now is that Richard Coxon, having been a lap down earlier on... Oh, no, David goes, no!
He was trying to lap Chapman, who was really holding on to there. Ay.
Oh, David.
And there is Richard Coxon now. And David must have damage from that. His car must have such damage.
That's not a happy car, that of David Yunt.
No. There is suspension damage without behind any reasonable doubt on that car.
Oh, he's trying to hold on though. He wants to make it to the last fuel stop. Surely that's why he's staying out.
He has an extremely itchy rear end for the moment. Jake's gonna come by soon now.
Ray Riddell's also in the pits, 4 tyres and fuel.
Where there might be talk about the way Nick was trying to not get on lap there after the race.
Well, it's difficult to tell, but we'll know for sure later on, as you say.
And Rally Rab has a moment and coming into
Whoa.
the pits, very sideways. Gets it back together.
We have a yellow flag. Something happened somewhere. The yellow is out again.
I'll see if we can find anything. Oh, Jason whited us out. I wonder if he may have been the reason for the yellow.
This could of course be David Jones' perfect opportunity to pit, have that damage repaired if they can repair it, and not lose too much ground on the others.
Indeed. Oh no, Jason White's engine gave up.
And Grant is meanwhile still sitting in the pit to have that damage from his earlier accident repaired.
Oh, that's so unfortunate for Jason White, and as you say, note for Grant as well. But he's still in the pits is crazy to me. And he just got passed by Pascal Mikola as well.
Yep. And I think with Jason White retiring, the field has now gone below 20 cars. We have now 19 cars left running, which for this type of track and this far into the race, quite a good result, I would say.
Yep, and here comes the
with
whole
that, you
field,
probably
and
put the
Richard
curse
in
on
trouble
everyone.
here. Richard in real trouble when he is to get out of the pits.
And they're all, Alberto is pitting, Johnson is pitting, Coxon is pitting now.
Oh, and Grant!
Grant is now blocked by Coxon. Well, and Coxon drives around, Johnson also they drive around the inside of Ibanez.
Something they would be very heavily reprimanded for doing in real life.
I think in real life they would have killed some crew members of Alberto's team.
All crew members and be wrapped up in the air hoses, but it's not real, so we can get away with these things.
Yep. As David Yates beat the rest of the guys out of the pits, he definitely is very smart when it comes to
Jakes
pitting.
is now in the lead, with Coxon straight behind him. So when the green flag falls, that's going to be a straight out battle, and Johnson is not too far behind them in third.
And also pitting, we've got Mick Chapman and Rob Swindles.
And since they were a lap down, they are only allowed to pit now. As Alberto leaves the pit lane, presumably with a bit of damage to be repaired, since he was in there for quite a while.
Quick swap for Swindles, he's away. Chapman's still stationary.
Here comes David Junt out of the pits, having repaired the damage to his car.
And if you look at the track from very high up, the reason why this track is a 3 oval is basically when they built the track in the mid 60s, they also built a road track. But this one was quite peculiar. We go green again.
Yep, and a big gaggle of cars coming towards the start-finish line.
And Jake Simpson are going to be into a big bunch of traffic immediately.
Oh, but he gets a bit of a gap to the rest of the cars behind.
And Johnson is now straight on Kinsdale. Jakes is running away.
Oh, and Coxon gets he got boxed in then. Whoa!
Lucky to keep that together. That could have been a lot worse.
Oh, for sure. Good job from both of them to resolve that situation. But I don't think Ray expected him to go around the outside there. When Coxon with a big sideways moment there. But Jakes, as Timo has mentioned, has romped away with a big gap, and Wilkes unfortunately got caught out with all that yellow flaggery and is in 5th at the moment with blue flags because he has David Yates right behind him. So any moment here we could have the top top 4 on the lead lap.
Gunt is back down to 8 now.
Yeah, but that's a fairly light penalty for having damaged his car. And I believe he's sitting. Okay, Alberto is a lap behind.
Trying to lap Alberto.
Yeah, I believe that Alberto was for position, but Alberto's another few places back. And here goes David, I'd assume, up the inside and lapping Alberto. As Canola is now up to 6th as well, so that's a good job from him. Canola, by the looks of things, actually hanging along with David Yates at the moment. As we saw Canola earlier hanging with other drivers, he's now hanging with the lead car as well. Whereas Richard Willicks nudges the wall coming out of 4.
David Jakes is now preparing to lap Richard Willicks, which will only have 4 cars on the lead lap.
Well, I wonder if Willicks will allow himself to be lapped. After all, the blue flag is only advisory.
Potentially Canola here has the chance to get back on the lead lap if he can get past Jakes.
Indeed. All depends on what Richard decides to do and what happens in this kind of situation.
Something happened. Jakes now has a 23-second lap lead over Coulson, which is almost impossible because then he would be a lap.
I think it may have stabilised itself now. He's only really 1.5 seconds. But Jakes is being held up here by Richard Wilkes.
Oh, and Richard definitely does not want to be lapped. He wants to stay on the lead lap, and of course he has. David has Canola right behind him as well, wanting to get back onto the lead lap. Here we have Richard closing.
He has an even bigger problem, or an even bigger worry with Richard Coxon, who's now closing in from behind.
Indeed so, and I believe that's Adam Hack, possibly up ahead as well, so that's another spice to mix this thing up. No, that's Chapman in the second of the Penske's. He puts a lap down, another lap down as well, and Richard puts him down, and here comes both Yates and Canola up the inside. Now Coxon to be next.
Little wheel coming out of turn 4 for Yates.
Well, the actually eating some of the air from under David's wheel, running so close to him. So I think that the rear of Jake's car might be slightly unsettled as a result of that.
Quite possibly these are ground effect cars, so not as affected by the dirty air as others, but certainly still has an effect on them.
Yeah, I know people have been talking about the dirty air causing mainly understeer around here. Now Richard goes by Chapman, and I think Richard is in the box seat here. He has the Yud engine, has good fuel economy. With that yellow, I wouldn't be surprised if he could possibly make it to the end of this race. I'm not sure David can, and neither am I sure if Johnson or Lavac can make it. Lavac actually in 4th position at the moment. That's a tremendous effort from him.
There we Yates finally getting up the inside of Richard Wilkes into turn 1. But Wilkes hanging on around the outside.
Whoa! I'm not sure David is enjoying this.
He's really fighting him for this one. He doesn't want to go a lap down.
Thiago is now trying to follow David past Picasso.
Oh, and Richard is caught in the middle of this. This is bad for Richard now. He'll be held up heavily here. Canola still fighting with Wilkes rather than letting Richard go by. But Richard with a run now. Oh,
I think Canola hit the wall.
Definitely look like it will at least have scraped it.
The car wiggled coming out of turn 4.
Now the two Richards going at it as well, and Richard still doesn't. Wilkes still not wanting to go a lap down. See if Coxon can make the move into one instead. Looks like he will.
Again, Canola tries to follow him through, but not quite close enough. Slips around the outside for the dogleg, ducks the inside. Still not quite close enough.
Let's see, here comes Johnson in third. Jon 7th, team 15th. See who else we have. Lavach 4th. 8th for Ray, I believe. 17th for Pascal in that Porsche. Still running, which is nice to see.
He is now past both Ricardo and Canola, so he can start hunting David Jakes.
Well, either hunt him or save fuel. I'm not sure which way he'll decide to go about it, but
He's getting down to the crunch now, only 24 laps to go.
So I think depending on how much fuel it will take, we both go the full way now.
I believe it'll be tighter for David than for Richard though, if it comes to fuel alone.
And they both now have quite a good stretch of clean road ahead of them. I think Jakes is running away a bit. He had about a 7/10 gap some laps ago, and it's now grown up to above 1 second.
I wonder if that's David going for a quick splash then, if he's running just a tad bit more boost than Richard, or if he knows he can make it. Even running a bit high boost, because I think, well, this is really intriguing. I wonder.
He's now running laps of David is running laps of 24, where he's about 22. So he's running close to his fastest race laps.
Then I'd assuming he's definitely not saving fuel. The question is what Richard's doing. Was Richard has a moment, goes wide and hits the outside number 4, just touched the apron. As Pascal goes another lap down.
Coxon's last lap was about half a second slower than his fastest lap.
Okay, then neither seem to be saving too much here as Pascal gets out of the way of Richard.
Oh, Pascal gets very sideways.
Oh, oi, that's not a yellow then. Wow, that's unfortunate for him. But he did a really good job to stay low and allow drivers to go round outside. Let's have a ride on board with him here. Another lap's time, I believe he will get there as he lets
up the track for David Jakes, then for Richard Coxon, and then he went sideways in turn 4, and I think Richard Wilkes hit him and lost his front wing. So Richard's gonna have to pit, which is really unfortunate for Richard. Richard Wilkes no longer has a front wing, so I'm afraid he's gonna have to pit. But of course the nice thing is that with the pace car out, Jakes lost the entire 1 second advantage over Coxon that he had been working so hard to get. It's completely cancelled. He'll have Richard Coxon on his tailpipes as they go green.
Well, I wonder
I
in
think that's going
terms
to
of...
set us up for quite the shootout for the last 10 laps or so then.
Oh, indeed.
It's going to be a real one. Because David is again running straight behind the pace car, so as they go green, the two leaders will have a field and they can battle it out between them. There won't be any back markers interfering with their fight.
And I wonder in terms of Richard Wilkes if, since he's still staying out, if he will decide to stay out without that front wing and just try to soldier on for the last 15 laps, because I'd assume there won't be more than like 13, 14 laps left. If that's even possible to do
I
that.
think when the pace car comes in, they'll have 10 laps left. Now I've covered 185 laps.
Here
So I
comes
would be
Canola
surprised
into the
that-
pits.
Yes, a penalty,
And-
stop and go.
Oh, okay. Possibly passing on the yellow or something then.
There's only 4 on the lead lap now. David Jakes, Richard Coxon, Aston Johnson and Petr Lavac.
Let's give Lavac
Ravital
some.
also in the pits.
Petr is also one of those drivers who you never really see in a race, and then in the closing stages, suddenly he's there in the top 5, top 6.
Indeed, and he can put in really good fights as well. I've seen him fight a few times, and he definitely knows how to both attack and defend. It was really nice to see him have another good showing here. And in 2017, that car was in the hands of Ferguson, who of course won the championship. So it's a car that has potential, and Lavac definitely putting it to good use here. Oh, and Austin Johnson!
Johnson
Oh
blew his
no! No! Oh, it can't be that cruel. My God!
Well,
Oh
Petr
dear
Lavac
me.
won't think that's cool because just put him on the podium. With the next guy behind him, Willix a lap down, so like Petr is almost certain to end up with the bronze plate here, at least.
Oh dear
So
me.
Petr won't be complaining about that.
Well, he may be a bit shocked and surprised. Maybe not.
It's
Maybe
all
not
over
thrilled
Jonathan
with
Johnson. He's in the pit.
Well, that's really unfortunate for Austin. He put on a really good drive in that car. And he definitely deserved a at least top 5 finish, if not even a podium. But unfortunately, Mother Luck wasn't there
And
to give
if,
him.
if David Jakes was low on fuel, this late yellow may actually be a saving angel for him. Because he's able now to probably run without any boost during the yellows and save a lot of fuel.
It's definitely a possibility, but Richard has of course proven that he can run very quickly as well, so this will be a very interesting one to watch. As I believe this is going to be the green flag this time around, unless I'm very much mistaken.
Then they would still have 12 laps to go. Yep, safety car peels off, so it's going to be green as they cross the start finish line.
Oh, and David has a fantastic start. Gets a bit of a gap early on here.
He already has a half second over for now. It's now going to be 11 laps to go when he crosses the finish line.
Wilk's still hanging on without that front wing, but he's dropping backwards to the field like a snake.
Yeah, and he will probably have no grip whatever on his front wheels without that front wing, so that thing must be under.
Oh, and this is to the wall in turn 3. Oh, Riddell, he's got into the wall.
Oh
That's
no.
good. The yellows are out again, so I think that basically settles it for David Jakes.
Most likely, yeah, and that's unfortunately Rondall even retiring here. He had a very tiny opportunity at a points finish if he had a perfect run, but was not to be here. towards the end. Oh, and he
He's back to fourth.
Yep, he got really crowded out in the pack towards the back, and like many others before him, out in the dirt on the outside. That's all she wrote. But credits to him, he tried to get out of the way to not cause the yellow, but Usak had other ideas. We may have a green-white or even a 2 or 3 lap run towards the end, but unless Richard gets a fantastic restart, I don't think, as you mentioned, he'll be able to beat David here tonight.
I think now when the base car comes in, there will be... I don't exclude that we're going to finish on the yellow here. But even if the pace car comes in, we will probably have 3-4 laps left at most. So, and looking at the previous caution, the way David Jakes immediately managed to pull away as the green flag went down, if he manages to do the same thing this time around, half a second should be enough to keep him in the lead for the 3-4 remaining laps.
That's definitely would seem to be the most likely outcome here.
Pace car still stays out.
Yep.
So at least one more lap under yellow. As I was saying earlier, when they built this track, they made also next to the oval, they also built a road track. But the particular thing about this one was that the road track was not entirely inside of the oval, but crossed over the oval, and there was part of the road track on the outside. And here you see that's where the road track rejoined. That's why you basically have this kind of oval shape. And if you look at the track here in Automobilista from way up above, you actually see the entire road track running on the outside. I don't think it's drivable, but they modeled it into this track right. They were very close to reality when they modeled the track graphically.
If you look on Google Earth, you can still see the what's left of that old road course on this track in real life. Now a car park.
Must have been quite a nice track because they crossed out of the oval, while they had the room and the space to make a real road track. It was about 4 kilometers long, so it was not like those tiny Mickey Mouse tracks you often get on inside of ovals. It was a real track with a real nice long straight. So.
And I know there's another track where it's a similar situation where you go outside of it. Well, a few.
I believe the old Texas World Speedway had a similar setup.
Indeed, it did. And you also had the Thunderdome and Calder Park had that kind of layout as well, where you could run both the outside road course and the Thunderdome oval itself.
And if the IndyCar movie that Stallone made is close to reality, I think they also, the safety car is in now, so they're going to race.
Yep, let's see what happens here.
In reality, in the same sentence there, Timo.
Then I think the last is going to play out.
Well, Richard with much closer this time around. Now he's really in the draft. He has the boost. Let's see. He tried to look around outside. Couldn't quite find the opportunity there. Trying for a good run through 3 and 4. Looks like he should have a decent run. Let's see if he can get by up here. Into 1. He goes up the inside. Oh, he has a fantastic run. Yeah. What a run.
Jake goes with Stevie, but Jake is fighting back now.
He does indeed, but Coxon holds on for now.
Jake seems to be slight over Steve going into the turns.
Whoa. But Coxon was slow there. Here comes David with a run. 2 laps to go. Jake's looking for a run off of 1. But it looks like Richard is really strong off for 1. So David needs to look for the run here. Oh, there's a yellow! Oh no, there's a yellow!
It's settled.
Oh,
Take this one home.
oh, what cruel luck for David Yates.
Wow.
That's but
Cruel
that's the
luck for David Yunt, cruel luck for Johnson. Blowing his engine in third with 20 laps to go.
and that's unfortunately, as you mentioned, Chapman, who retires, and that's some cruel luck for many drivers indeed. And
Well, I think this time it's settled.
indeed, it should be, because this time around they'll cross the finish line for the.
They'll finish under yellow now.
Yep.
There's only one lap to go, I think.
Yeah, I thought this was the final lap, but maybe there's one more.
I think they'll get the white flag this time by, possibly.
Yep, 198 laps finished, so white flag out now. And
They're
with that,
now on the last. They're
yep, and considering it's under yellow, we'll have Richard Coxon winning the race. Congratulations, Richard, it's outstanding drive. David Yates, oh so close, with a really good drive as well, finishes second. Third will be Peter Lavach with a very consistent, incident-free run with very good consistency indeed, and that is enough for him to get third, which I think he'll be stoked with. Fourth will be David Yunt, despite having a big crash just 50 or so laps ago. He gets fourth. Fifth will be Ray Riddle. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's a very good recovery effort there.
It is indeed, as they are coming towards the start-finish line for the Finnish flag. And Ray Riddle finishes fifth, a really good effort from him, staying out of trouble and being consistent.
Checkered flag is out, and there is the winner.
Yep, Richard Wilkes will finish sixth without his front wing. That's a good drive considering the issues he had. Seventh will be Alberto Ibanez, also a good drive considering he had some issues along the way. David Saber will finish eighth. Ninth for Thiago Canola. 10th for Rob Swindells after his earlier troubles. That's, I assume, a pretty good finish for him. 11th will be Juha Bors. 12th for Adam Hackman. 13th for John Team. 14th, though retired, will be Mick Chapman. So the final point will go to Adam Hackman, by the way, in 12th. 15th for Austin Johnson, though retired. 16th for Raul Jereb, 17th for Pascal Mikla. With all his troubles, I think he'll be happy to finish. 18th for Jason White, likewise for him. I think he'll be happy to finish. And first of our non-finishers outside of those running, Grant Riddle 19th, Jason White at 20th, Gerard Drouot 21st, Fredriksson 22nd, Lassina 23rd, Placet 24th, Gardner 25th, and Jason Fetch finishing out the field in 26th.
Yeah. Quite a race for the first race of the season.
Oh, indeed so. Quite a few antics, but a lot of fun to watch. While we wait for drivers to possibly join us, let's have a callback, a throwback to the trivia questions from earlier in this race, where the question was, who won the first kart-sanctioned IndyCar race at Pheonix on March 11th, 1979? Was it A, Gordon Johncock, B, Al Unser, that would be senior, or C, Tom Snever? You have
I would put my money
guess?
on. I would put my money on Alonso. I know he won quite a lot of races here. I'm not sure about the first one, but I would put my money on Alonso.
Okay, I won't ask Dave because he already knows the answer, as you mentioned earlier. But the correct answer is A, Gordon Johncock. who won the race in 1979, and I believe it was Gordon who then had quite the crash the year after in 1980 at the very same venue.
Meantime, Jacob Fredriksson has left a small comment on the forum saying that during all his practice laps and training for the race, he had not had one moment where the car went loose, and then in the race suddenly it snapped and he couldn't save it. He went into the wall, damaging the car, which he calls a total bummer, as he was quite confident that he could at least get 1 or 2 points because the coin car was behaving very well, and he was driving conservatively to get a point. So sorry for Jacob.
That's very fortunate indeed, but it is what it is. Let's see, we have 2 drivers seeming to want to join us, so let's have a quick.
User joined your channel.
And we are joined now by Pascal Miklai, Porsche Quaker State sponsored machine, and I believe finished 17th or 18th in the end.
Yes, hello, yes I did indeed. Can I just call this a crazy race, because it really was? At least from my point of view. Like, oh my goodness, it's a really tight track, and if you make one mistake, it's instant death, unless you can save it.
Certainly did look very hectic
User
from
joined
up
your
here.
channel.
Well done for making it to the finish and hanging on to what must have been quite a difficult car at some points.
It was, yes. I was in a fight with David Saber when I first lost it. I don't know how. It just broke loose, and I'm pretty happy, or I'm feeling pretty lucky that I didn't lose any wheels or wings or anything of that sort. However, I must say I'm kind of, I don't know if I should say sad that it didn't cause a yellow, because the fact that it didn't cause a yellow cost me 12 laps at least.
Fortunate, but that's the way it works out sometimes.
Yeah, indeed. Other than that, I mean, the car was actually pretty much spot on. It wasn't fast, but it was drivable. Then again, you gotta define what's fast and what isn't fast, but...
Indeed, but consistency is always a viable strategy, I've always found anyway.
Oh, yeah, it really is,
User
yes.
joined your channel.
We've also been joined, well, first of all, congratulations on finishing, Pascal, even though your race didn't quite go to plan. We've also been joined by Peter Lavac, who finished 3rd in the race. Congratulations!
User disconnected from your channel.
Good evening, guys. Thank you, Jonathan. It was an amazing race. Actually, the first stint was very difficult for me because I have no idea how and when it happened. But I obviously clicked. I had 1 click less on the rear wing, which resulted into very oversteery car. So the first stint, it was really difficult, especially in the last corner, not to oversteer the car and crash into the wall. But once I realized this mistake, I fixed it in the pits during the first yellow pit stops, and that was just perfect, absolutely fantastic.
I can imagine that would have caused a few butt-clenching moments with that kind of layout for the wings, but yeah.
Actually, then there was one more scary moment. I believe 26 laps before the finish line. Somebody in the very last corner started to spin slowly. It was a very lazy spin, but it was right in front of me, and I hit the car. I have no idea who it was. I have no idea who it was, but I hit the car, and he straightened out and continued. and I believe he entered the pit. So basically, I saved him by that little nudge, into his front wheel. But that was pretty scary because that moment when my pretty much fourth position was quite safe. So I was just cruising till the finish. Then this happened. I don't need to experience anything like that in the next races.
Well, I can understand that. And, yeah, third place here. Will you be looking for a similar finish at Long Beach, or are you a bit more conservative with your expectations?
Road course is a completely different beast. So who knows? I mean, especially Long Beach, it's a roulette. It's a survival. So you can plan whatever you want, but it says that Indianapolis Motor Speedway decides who will win. I believe Long Beach is pretty much the same.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations on your third place finish and a good start to the championship. And we're also now joined by David Jun to finish fourth after a very good early bit of a run, but then a bit of a moment later on causing a bit of issues. But anyway, congratulations on fourth, David.
Yes, thanks. Hello.
User disconnected from your channel.
Well, I'm not unhappy with fourth. Fourth was good because I was probably expecting a lot of less stuff coming. Yeah, I've got to thank Alberto. Alberto helped me last minute, so that the car was at least balanced in some way. Right, going after his and well, I still felt a bit like I wasn't quite sure about my line taking if the car would stand on it, which then I noticed I think later in the stint, as of course tires going down, I lost grip and got slower out of turns, but it was I'm good. Just that one moment with Mick where I'm not sure, I didn't out to him because I think he had less visibility wasn't good since I think he had stuff and such, so he couldn't see why it was there. I didn't want to call out to him because I wasn't like just like want to call out to him to make him lose concentration as well. So I tried to just go around him the other way, but I hadn't quite trained really, at least going high. And so there was like 1.5, 2 lane grip. I just lost the rear end and then hit the wall. Cost me 83 damage repair. Probably lucky that there was a yellow soon afterwards because I was kind of nursing the car around the track for like 2, 3, 4 laps, and I just at least didn't lose it, but it was kind of a bit hairy. So at least lucky to only lose a lap and then later on to jump back into fourth, which is better than on the old season where I couldn't evade on a yellow and lost the front right wheel. So this time also survived a bit higher. So I'm happy with this result, and it was a lot of fun.
Yep, good to hear, and again, congratulations on fourth place. Quick question: will you expect a similar good finish at Long Beach, or will you be a bit more conservative there as well in terms of anticipated finish?
I'm always like saying, oh, I'm doing better on road courses, but last time I didn't win a single road course race and won twice on ovals, so I'm not really sure what I'm better at now, but I'm usually good with this. I think last time at Indy was like also some 4th or 5th place, so a bit more tough. I trained at Adelaide a bit and it wasn't that easy as well, but yeah, probably more for road course race again. So, but in a street race there was also another good result like here. So continue the season.
Okie dokie. We're also joined by Jason.
Hey, how's it going?
Going pretty well. Noticed that you had a bit of trouble after about 50 laps, but it looked like you were enjoying yourself up until that point.
Yeah, the race was a lot of fun starting. I had excellent race pace and got up into the top 12, and everything was looking good. And then just what I feared would happen happened. the right rear started to heat up really high, and the car became undrivable. Like almost immediately. I tried to make adjustments in the cockpit with sway bar because we weren't close enough to a pit window yet. And then I came off of 4, and the thing just had this really lazy slide. I almost saved it, but it hit the inside wall, and it just really bummed me out because I had managed to avoid a lot of incidents up to that point. I was driving well, and I was feeling optimistic. And so after that, the car was handling at least decent enough to use the rest of the time as a test session. Learned a lot about working with the sway bars, which is a positive thing. But yes, you know, just to finish here at Pheonix is an accomplishment. I mean, last time we raced here, I finished 7th, and that was only because the attrition rate was so high, and I had to in that race too. So it's you know, let's just move on to Long Beach, and which is another survival race, and see how I can do there.
Yep, sounds good, and best of luck to both you and David and all the others for the next round, which will be at Long Beach. And yeah, Dave, any final thoughts before we cap off the broadcast here?
Nothing else I can really say. It's quite an enjoyable race and to commentate on and watch. Thanks for letting me on.
Thank you very much for joining me. And Timo, any final thoughts from you before we end off the broadcast here?
I agree with David. It was quite an enjoyable race. It was less of a wreckfest than we thought. Just sad maybe that we had the last yellow, because it would have been nice to see Witchett and David Jakes going for the last 5 laps head to head. But a very nice race to start the season off.
Indeed it was, and with that, a quick heads up for the upcoming week here, where we have on Wednesday the round 1, the Champion VXY Viper Blade Trophy meeting. A tongue twister in itself. The 1996 BTCC season has its go-ahead at Donington Park. The GP layout, the Super Touring era of cars. I'm not sure if this will be broadcast or not, but at the moment it's not looking good. But anyway, the race is going on Wednesday. There are a few cars that are still available as one-offs and full season drives if anyone watching is interested in joining us. And also on Sunday, January 27th, as in this upcoming week, is the Internationales Avusrennen from the Pro Car Series 1980, round 2 of that championship, where we saw some great racing in round 1 at Donington. And I do know that this, well, I assume anyway, this is going to be broadcast by Jason once again. And
Yes.
yeah, hopefully, thank you.
Yeah,
And hopefully, sorry, go ahead.
No, I am broadcasting next Sunday. It's on the schedule, and it's on the YouTube page. So you could say to everybody, we'll begin, well, how many hours is it? 24 times 7.
So about 120 something hours.
We'll be back in 168 hours. Don't go away.
Quite. So yeah, until next Sunday, I presume, unless something comes up with the Beat Season 96, that we solve a broadcast for that. Have a great week, and we'll see you then. Take care, and good night.
To you too. See you.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
User disconnected from your channel.